Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Test of Time series. In the last episode, we started our game in Civ 5 as Rome. We settled many cities, we built a few wonders, we got sniped by the AI for two wonders I actually really wanted. Uh, and in this episode, we are just gonna keep developing our nation and make strides towards our victory condition. Now, in the last episode, I didn't explicitly mention which victory condition I was going for. That's because I hadn't actually decided yet. I know, um, but I think since in Civ 3 we went for a diplomatic victory, and in Civ 4 we went for a science victory. This game, why don't we go for a cultural victory? By culture victory, well, a couple reasons. First is that Civilization 5, specifically its second expansion, the Brave New World expansion, introduced a whole slew of new mechanics related to cultural victories. No longer do you just need to, pile up a whole bunch of culture and then just, sit on your wonders and win. Now you actually have to engage with systems. You have to earn great people. You have to create great works of art and writing and music, and you have to uh, generate tourism. You have to be a little bit more active with it. And second, being that the other option for victory would be a domination victory. And Civ 5 very. I mentioned this in the last episode, but Civ 5 very heavily punishes expanding wide. And winning a domination victory, which in this game involves owning every original capital city on the map, would involve a lot of expansion, far beyond what the game is really designed to let you get away with. You can obviously get away with it. It's not impossible to win a domination victory, but I think we'd be better served going for culture in this
ይህ
game.
ሁኔታ አስብበት። እኔ እንደማምነው ለሁለታችን
Okay, someone built a statue of Zeus. Fine, because we weren't going for that. Unfortunately, no one has any spare luxuries we can buy. We are still hurting for happiness a bit. Us. Yeah, I think we should start building coliseums. How very Roman of us. But as you can see up here, I'm using also using a UI mod called Enhanced UI or EUI. For Civilization 5. It shows a lot more. It's sort of like the bug mod from, or Buffy mod from Civilization 4, which I was also using. I don't think I mentioned it in that game. Basically just shows you more information in the game than, you normally would get without it. And it doesn't I wouldn't say it gives you an unfair advantage or anything. It's not like it's giving you access to information you wouldn't already have. It just makes it easier to find certain information. Like up here you could see we're getting penalties for having more unhappiness than happiness. And you can see exactly what the penalties are up here and so on and so forth. So we're growing at 1/4 speed, and our cities are producing 2% less production and 2% less gold. So until we get our happiness back in the positives, our economy is going to be hurting. I've expanded a little faster than I probably should have, but early bird gets the worm and all that. Give us one happiness, which would put us. But a circus would be just as cheap and would actually give us more happiness as a result. Yeah, so something to keep in mind with happiness in Civ 5 is that there are two kinds of happiness. There's local happiness and there's global happiness. The since everything kind of goes into a total empire-wide happiness, they both have almost the same effect, but the slight difference is that global happiness obviously affects the empire as a whole. It goes straight to your, um, like your total happiness, full stop. Like if you get to global happiness, then you will always have that happiness added towards your total happiness. But local happiness really only serves to kind of counterbalance the penalty within a city. So like, um, what I mean by that is buildings that give happiness produce local happiness, and that happiness cannot produce more happiness than there are citizens in a city. So, for example, in Kumai, we have 3 citizens here. So the circus will give us 2 happiness, so that's not an issue. But if we were to also build a coliseum, which would give us another 2 happiness, that would be plus 4 happiness from buildings. But since there are only 3 citizens here, we would only be getting 3 happiness. So local happiness is more of like a countering a penalty than it is about adding to your total. Um, that last policy, plus 1 happiness for each city you own connected to the capital. That's via roads or via harbors or airports. Actually, no, I think it's just. I don't think airports do that in this game. That's Civ 3. And minus 5% unhappiness from number of citizens. So that put us back in the positives, that alone. And since we finished the Liberty Tree, we also get a free great person of our choice. Now I am going to just go ahead and immediately pick another great prophet so we can enhance our religion. So the first great prophet you get allows you to found a religion and allows you to choose 2 beliefs for that religion. Your second great prophet allows you to pick 2 more beliefs for that religion. So we get another follower belief, and like I said last time, we're going to pick Peace Gardens because that will improve our unique building. And the enhancer belief, this is just kind of like, this is a belief that's focused on helping spread the religion around, and I believe it affects everyone who has it. Now, I don't necessarily know what like the meta best choice is, but I always go. I usually go religious texts, but I believe itinerant preachers is actually better, based on the way passive religion spread works. So, let me explain that real quick. So you can see here in Kumai is not following our religion yet. It has our pantheon. You can tell by that little lightning bolt, but it does not have the religion in it. You can tell Rome does because it has the cross, the Catholic cross. And you can see if I hover over that little lightning bolt, it says 0 followers plus 9 pressure. So from Rome is exerting a certain amount of religious pressure onto all of the cities around it. You can see there's a little bit here in Harar, Ethiopia City. There's a little bit here in Antium. There's a little bit here in Neapolis. Rio's too far. Oh no, Rio's not too far away. You can see Rio's also getting a little bit of pressure. But if we go over here to say Akwesasme here, the Iroquois city, it's not. So within a certain range, it will exert pressure on surrounding cities. And the more followers of a religion that are in a city, the more pressure it has. I think over time, as the pressure builds up, more and more citizens will be converted to that religion. I don't know the exact math behind it. Like, I don't know how much pressure you need over a certain amount of time to convert a citizen to a religion passively, but the religious scriptures belief, I believe that's what it was called. The scriptures belief that I usually choose makes it so that that pressure is increased. So instead of plus 9 pressure, it would be plus like 11 or 12 pressure. And then once you research the printing press, you get plus 50% total pressure. So that would be, instead of plus 9, that would be plus 13 or 14, you know. But with itinerant preachers, what that does is that extends the range of how far a city can like extend pressure on its religion. You could see we're reaching Rio de Janeiro, even though Rome is quite far away from it. We aren't reaching Grand River though. But so you might think that, well, obviously having the stronger pressure sounds better because you'll convert more cities faster? Well, if you have a greater range of like if your cities can influence farther away, then you can have more cities applying pressure at once. You know what I mean? So like, Rio de Janeiro here, we're obviously exerting pressure from Rome now, and we would be let's say let's just say for example that if we didn't have that belief, then Rome would not be exerting any pressure on Rio de Janeiro right now. So, and like we would, and like if Antium had our religion, it would be spreading pressure. So that's like, one city's worth of pressure from Rio de Janeiro. And if we had the scriptures, that would be like a city and a half worth of pressure. But now that we have itinerant preachers, both Rome and Antium could be exerting pressure. So that's two cities worth of pressure. You know what I mean? So I think, based on my experience with how it works, I think itinerant preachers is better for like passive spread because you have like the math just works out that it's more pressure in the end. Especially considering in order to get plus 50% from scriptures, you have to have printing press, which is like in the middle of the game. Whereas with this, all you need to do is, spread your religion to your own cities. You can do that as early as, you have a religion to spread. All right, so we've built a lighthouse in Neapolis finally, and that not only gives +1 food to coastal tiles, it also gives another +1 food to fish resources, and +1 production to fish resources and other resources on coastal tiles. So I wanted to get that in first because that would give us basically 2 food and 1 production on this tile for free without anything else. So now I think I will go for a monument and then a shrine, then the library. The usual build order for me, at least. So, I mentioned earlier that I want to go for a cultural victory this game. To get a culture victory in Civilization 5, you need to accrue tourism. And the way you win is by having more total tourism accrued over the course of the game than any one other civilization has accrued total culture over the game. So if that sounds confusing, let me explain a little bit. If we go into here, you can see the three people we've met so far. We're not generating any tourism right now, so we're not making any progress towards the victory condition at the moment. But you can see here, Brazil has accrued 207 culture total over the course of the game. Ethiopia's got 238, and the Iroquois have 253. Excuse me. So, in order for us to win the game, we need to have more total tourism than total culture. If you're still confused, let me keep going. So, every turn you accrue culture in this game, like, the culture you see up here, every turn you have at least some of this coming in, that goes towards your total culture you've accrued over the course of the game. So, I don't know if we could see how much we have um, accrued total, but we can see what other people have. So, over the course of the game, Brazil has basically made a total of 207 culture. So what we would need to do is we would need to have more total tourism, like the same way that the culture works. We'd have to have more total tourism over the course of the game than like any one had, because once you make more total tourism than they had total culture, you become culturally dominant over them. Basically, like your culture is influencing them more than their own, like traditions and stuff would. So you need to do that over everybody. So basically, like you need to have more total tourism than any one civilization has had total culture put together. Um, and there are, the main way to get tourism is through great works, um, especially early on. At least early on. So great works are kind of self-explanatory. They are works of art. Or there are four kinds of great works. There's great works of writing, great works of art, great works of music, and artifacts. Um, and in order to get a great work, you usually have to have a great person. You get a great work of writing from a great writer. You get a great work of art from a great artist, and you get a great work of music from a musician. For a artifact, you have to have an archaeologist, and then, well, I'll explain that when we get to it. But um, point is, you need like a great person to create the great work, and then you need a building to house that great work in. So you can see here the Great Library. I mentioned this again in the first episode. It has 2 slots for great works of writing, so we can hold up to 2 great works of writing. And your palace will also have 1 free slot for. I think it's technically anything you can put in the palace, either that or it's just art. Um, and obviously, the more of those great works, each great work will give some tourism by itself, and the more great works you have, the more tourism you have. But any building, well, any wonder that has more than 1 slot for a great work of any kind will have some kind of theming bonus. That also applies to museums because museums have 2 slots, but none of the other buildings that give slots have more than one. So I just said wonders. Um, you can see here theming bonus. To maximize your bonus, make sure the great work slots are filled with writings from different eras and different civilizations. So each great work has an era and a civilization. Obviously, the civilization is obviously the civilization that created the great writing. So if we got a great writer and we used that great writer to create a great work of writing, that would be a Roman great work of writing because it was made by us, the Romans. Um, if we and the era is obviously the era the game was in, or the player was in, excuse me, when they created the great work. So if we got one right now, since we are in the classical era, that would be a classical great work of writing. We're gonna go drama and poetry for all those culture buildings. So uh, if we want to use the great library for a theming bonus, we have to make sure that the 2 great works of writing, are from different eras, like they're not both from the same era, and from different civilizations, like they're not from the same civilization. That's what this swap of great works screen is for. You can like basically put up some of your great works for trade and trade them with other players. Um, and if you fulfill a theming bonus for a wonder or a museum, then you get increased tourism. I think it's double or like 50% extra tourism and culture from the great works in it. So like I think each great work gives like 2 culture and 2 tourism by itself. If we had 2 in here without the theming bonus, we would have 4 culture and 4 tourism. If we fulfilled the theming bonus, I think we would get an extra 4 culture and 4 tourism. Basically, so you want to max out your theming bonuses. There are other ways you can get tourism, but we will touch on those later. Since we finished the Oracle earlier, we get a free social policy, and I'm going to start with aesthetics because, like I mentioned earlier, aesthetics is the culture tree. The first policy right off the bat doesn't help us too much yet because that increased the speed at which we get writers, artists, and musicians. That we don't have the ability to um, hire those yet. The way you get artists, writers, and musicians in Civilization 5 is by building these guilds. There's the Writers Guild, which is unlocked at Drama and Poetry. There's the Artist Guild, which is unlocked at Guilds. And then there's the Musicians Guild, which is unlocked at Acoustics. Um, each of these buildings has 2 slots for specialists. Now, specialists work a lot like the specialists in Civilization 4, where you can assign a citizen instead of to a tile to that slot, and they will give you a little yield and then points towards a great person. Um, so those national wonders, you can only build one of them, but any player can only build one, but like each player can have one. So like a world wonder where only one can exist in the entire world. This is like only one can exist across your empire. Um, so you build that, then you assign the specialist, and you start accruing points towards the great people. So for a culture victory, primarily one based off of great works, you want to accrue, great person points, basically. Rome, I think we're back down to negative happiness again. Um, because we keep growing, and then like once we grow, we get happiness from amount of citizens. Um, so yeah, we'll find ways to mitigate our happiness more later on. But I think we'll build a lighthouse here in I. Well, the same reason we did in Neapolis. The yields. Oh, alright. I totally glossed over this because I was talking about the culture victory mechanics. We met a city-state. We met Antwerp. Now, for those of you who have never played Civilizations 5 or 6, you may not know what a city-state is. Well, a city-state is kind of like an NPC. I mean, you could see any AI-controlled empire as an NPC, but let me explain a little bit further. City-states are smaller one-city civilizations, city-state, obviously, that do not compete to win the game. They just have one city, they sit around, they do what, the AI would do with a city, but they don't, they can't win the game, basically. Like, they can't uh big tourists, they can't build a spaceship, what have you. So their purpose here is for you to basically befriend them. If you well In order to do that, you need to accrue influence with them. The more influence you have with a city-state, the better your relationships are with that city-state, and the more bonuses you will get for associating with them. So Antwerp here is a mercantile city-state. Once we hit... So the more influence we have with Antwerp, the happier they will make our empire as a whole. Once you hit over... I think it's over 30 influence with a city-state, they will start giving you a small bonus related to their type. And once you get above 60, they will give you a bigger bonus. And if you have the most influence out of, if you have more influence in that city-state than anyone else does, you get the biggest bonus. So for mercantile city-states, if you're above 30 influence, they'll give you a small happiness bonus. If you are above 60, they give you a bigger happiness bonus. And if you have the most influence out of them, you'll get a free copy of a unique luxury resource you can't get anywhere else in the game. Also, if you are the ally of a city-state, which means you have the most influence, you also get access to any resources that are improved in that city-state's territory. So, say you revealed iron on the map and you don't have any in your territory, but you notice the city-state next to you does. If you become their ally, they will give you their iron, basically. Yeah, they're good to keep around because you get lots of bonuses. And there are other mechanics tied to them, but for the time being, that's kind of all she wrote, so to speak. That's what's important right now. At some point, we should start connecting our cities via roads. Because not only will that make it easier to move cities between our move units, between our cities, it will also give them a gold, give our non-capital cities a small gold bonus. I think it's 25%, and it will also trigger that policy we unlocked at the end of the Liberty Tree that will give them +1 happiness, which is very nice. I think we should build an aqueduct. Should we? Because we're having a little growth problem. Actually, I think we'll start with a bath.
Deveremos prosperar através do comércio?
That will, like I mentioned earlier, that will increase the great people points we earn in the city, and it will also give us happiness thanks to our religion.
Deveremos prosperar através do comércio?
Yeah, I guess I can't really get anything else good for, in exchange for. What? I really need to explore down here. I find I do that a lot. I'll explore a whole bunch of the map, and then, I'll neglect like this big patch like right next to my home territory. It's kind of embarrassing. Okay. We're in Antium. Build. I think an aqueduct that will speed up the growth of the city. And over here in Neapolis, I'm going to buy a scout so we can explore over here a little faster. And once that bath is done in Rome, I'm going to have it build a worker for Neapolis because I keep forgetting. Okay. We also want horseback riding for caravanseries. Now, those of you familiar with basic Civilization 5 might be confused why I want caravanseries, because in the base game, they're not that great. They are they're focused on improving land-based trade routes. Now, those of you familiar with Civ 4 will recognize trade routes as, commerce between cities, but in Civilization 5 it works a little differently. Whereas in Civ 4 they were just formed passively between cities, like Rome and Harar would probably have trade routes between each other in Civ 4 because they're connected to each other via this inland sea here. In Civ 5, you have to establish them yourself with trade units. Many of the technologies we've been picking up over the way have increased our trade route capacity. Animal husbandry has given us one. Sailing has given us one, and I believe engineering gives us one as well. You can't see it because there's not enough room in the UI here. The reason I haven't started establishing those yet is just because, early on, they don't quite give enough to justify the cost. Why are you not working that tile? Nincompoop. So what a trade unit does is once it is created, you can use it to establish a trade route between the city it's currently in and another city that's on the map. The trade unit has to be able to move to that city. So for example, a caravan moves over land and a cargo ship moves over sea. So I wouldn't be able to establish a coastal trade route between Kumai and Rome because there's no way the cruise ship can navigate there. But I could make an overland trade route because obviously a caravan can move over these land tiles. And when you send a trade route from your city to another civilization city, that trade route will get you some gold. The amount of gold depends on several factors. It depends on how far away it is. Generally, farther away trade routes are more lucrative. Depends on what resources there are in the city. The more resources there are in the destination city, the more lucrative the trade route. And there are other things that will increase that bonus, like caravanseries will give you a +4 trade route, +4 gold from land trade routes, and so on and so forth. But if you send a trade route from your city to another one of your cities, the city you send it to will get either food or production, extra food or extra production, and you choose which one of those you give it. In the base game, in order to do that, you need either a granary or a workshop. If you build a granary in a city, you can send food to another city via trade routes. If you have a workshop in a city, you can send production to another city via trade routes. That's in the base game. In this game, I made it so that both of those are tied to the caravansery. So if you want to move food and production between cities, you have to build a caravansery in the city. And that's mostly for the sake of giving players a reason to build a caravansery, because typically speaking, it's better to send internal trade routes than external ones, because sure, you get gold from external trade routes, but you get food and production from internal ones. So you're missing out on gold in favor of growth and industry, which is generally considered better. Would you rather have a little extra money or a much bigger city that can make more money by itself by virtue of having more people to work in it, and of course, but sometimes you do need to trade a little bit to, be able to afford the things you want. So, And another reason caravanseries generally aren't used a lot in base game is that land trade routes are less lucrative than sea trade routes. That's just because sea trade routes are harder to protect. If barbarians were on, um, there's generally like no way to make sure every sea tile that a trade route could be going through will be safe from barbarians. Whereas on a land-based trade route, you can like cover all of the land tiles with either your territory or somebody else's to make sure those trade routes are safe. So sea-based trade routes are more lucrative, and that goes for the food and production yields as well. Food and production yields on internal trade routes are higher through sea-based routes than land-based routes. The caravanseries tend to get ignored, so I wanted to give players a reason to build them, basically. And that's kind of my general philosophy for this mod is like, if there's something that players aren't taking advantage of, either because it's usually because it's not good enough to take advantage of, then I want to give players a reason to take advantage of it. And simple. And if there's something that like players are choosing every single time, I want to make sure sometimes players choose something else. So that's my basic design philosophy when doing these rebalance mods. Is like, what is like what are the popular options? Why are they the popular options? What never gets used? Why does it never get used? Um, and should this thing be used at all, or is this just kind of like a waste of time either way? And so now that we've gotten most of the classical era, I think it's time we finally go to civil service and increase our farm yields. And now that we have drama and poetry, I'm going to build the Writers Guild here in Rome because it has a lot of food, basically. And you want to build your guilds in cities that have a lot of food, because a citizen that is working as a specialist is not harvesting is like one that's not harvesting any food. I touched on that in Civilization 3 back with the mine green, irrigate brown rule. That you want to make sure that your as many citizens as can recoup the food cost. Um, every citizen eats 2 food, so any citizen that's working a tile that gives at least 2 food is basically like paying themselves off. And a specialist can't do that because specialists don't produce any food. Um, they'll settle right next to me. Of course he did. Um, but yeah, so you wanna put your specialist wonders in cities that have a lot of food, so that the specialists, so other citizens can pick up the slack for how much food the specialists are eating, basically. Um, I think we'll build a caravanserai here. Start setting up some trade routes. Okay, so first 2 choices in aesthetics: construct monuments, amphitheaters, opera houses, museums, or broadcast towers 50% faster, or 50% of excess happiness added each turn to the amount of culture that may be spent as a response. I think we'll go for this one first because we're not making a lot of excess happiness right now. That would not give us a very big benefit. But we still have a lot of culture buildings yet to produce, so getting that production bonus early on before we build them is good. A bunch of players entered the medieval era. As did we, because we researched all the technologies in the classical era. That's one of 2 ways to get to the next era, is that to either research all the technologies in the last one, or to research a technology in the next one. So if you beelined it for a medieval era technology, you would get to the medieval era. But if you took your time and researched all the classical era technologies first, then you would also get to the medieval era. Now that we have bought 2 missionaries, which would have been enough to spread our religion around, but we actually managed to spread it passively here first. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have it automatically build pagodas, because those give happiness, as mentioned earlier. And we need happiness. I I thought that was like, I thought this was the worker that I sent out of Rome and then like sent back, but I realized that was the one I had built for the purpose of for Neapolis, so I'm going to send this guy over to Neapolis. Have that guy help finish up the road to Antium. Here in Kumei, got the path going. Oh, excuse me. I think a stable would behoove us because we've got a lot of. Actually, we should get a workboat to improve that fish. You have finished your library, so you can start on a. How about an aqueduct? So, yeah.
ይህን ሁኔታ አስብበት። እኔ
Your
እንደማምነው
upper, please. Thank you.
السر هيك قاعد يجدار.
So one little thing to note about spreading your religion to other players' cities. In order to spread your religion to other players' cities, you either need to do it passively, like we did here with Salvador, or you need to use a religious unit, like a missionary. Thing is, though, is that unless you have open borders with the civilization in question, then your missionaries are going to take attrition damage. You can see here they have like 100 strength here. If they end their turn in foreign territory that you don't have open borders into, then they'll take 250 damage to that number. So after every time they end their turn in foreign territory without permission, basically they take 250 damage, and they will eventually disappear. They'll also get less effective at spreading that religion. Also, AI players tend to get upset if you convert their cities away from their religion to your religion. And when I say their religion, I mean a religion they have founded. So, if Ethiopia were to spread their religion to Grand River here, and then we were to spread our religion to Grand River, Hiawatha would not necessarily be upset unless he had founded a religion of his own. So if they have a religion of their own, they don't like it when you spread your religion to them. If they don't like it, if they don't have their own religion, then you'll actually get like a little bonus with them if you have your religion in most of their cities. And the AI, I mentioned this also last time, they tend to get pretty zealous about spreading their religion to you, even if I've seen multiple times where an AI will send a great prophet who, for the record, does not lose strength when sent, into foreign territory without permission, and is also just better at spreading religion than a missionary. I notice they will send one of those to convert my cities away from my religion, even though only one of their cities is following their own religion. It's like it's infuriating. So, luckily there are ways to combat that. There are ways to prevent divs from converting your cities. The first way is to surround your city with units or impassable tiles. The AI player cannot move their missionaries onto a tile that has your unit on it, even if it's not a citizen unit. As long as it's your unit, they can't move their missionary onto that tile. So if you surround your city with your units, then they can't put spread their religion, move their religious units to next to your cities. But if you have an inquisitor in your city, which you get from, I believe you can only recruit a inquisitor if you have gotten the second great prophet and enhanced your religion. If you have an inquisitor sitting in your city, that city also cannot be converted. So that's two ways to combat that. If you, like me, often run into AIs who are very conversion happy. I think next we will go for guilds.
Deveremos prosperar
Yeah.
através.
Yeah. Now we have open borders with Brazil, so I can move my religious units into his territory freely without them getting hurt. I can also move my military units through his territory without declaring war. Um, I'm sure if you've played Civilization before, you know how open borders treaties work. Or at the very least, you can guess. Oh, there's a city-state down here. I should probably be building at least a couple naval units to explore the seas as well. Any unimproved tiles right now, so just chill. You should improve that because that is a luxury resource we do not have in our trade network yet, and as such, it will give us happiness. All right, now that we've got the Writers Guild here in Rome, we can assign a specialist or two to it. And we can move some citizens around to make sure that they're making enough food to grow. Why don't we put you on food focus? No, crouch focus. Yeah. I would like to build the Chichen Itza because that will extend any golden ages we get by 50%. So like we stay in a golden age for 50% longer, like 50% more turns. Also, I actually forgot I built a caravanserai here. So once I'm done with this stable, which will increase the production yields we get off of these sheep and horse pastures, I will build a few caravans to send extra food and production around to our other cities. So we get our happiness a little bit better under control. We're at +4 right now, which is better than we have been in a little while. I'm gonna, I think, settle 2 more cities. One over here to get this crab, which is another luxury resource, and one over here to get this fur, which is another luxury resource. And then maybe a 7th one up here to get the gems, but it's kind of pushing it. 4 cities is usually like the optimal number. Someone built the Parthenon. Kind of a shame because that would have given us a free, great work of art. Yeah. Lhasa or Lhasa, I think that's how it's pronounced. Yeah. So if we were friends with Lhasa, since they are a religious city-state, they're a religious city-state, they will give us faith. Also, I don't think I mentioned how you get more influence. There are a couple ways to get influence with a city-state. The quickest way is to give them money. You just give them gold, and you get influence with them. They will also give you quests every so often. If you fulfill that quest, you will get free influence with them. If you have a great merchant, you can send it into a city-state to conduct a trade mission, which will get you a lump sum of gold, and then, I believe, 30 influence with the city-state that you sent it to. There are other ways, like certain social policies will give you ways to increase, other ways to get influence, and certain civilizations have abilities to get them more influence, but excuse me. At the moment, none of those are particularly relevant. Also going to start building amphitheaters in places so that once we get great writers, we actually have a place to put all the great works of writing we get from them. We have a few spots with the Great Library, but nice to have more room. More room than you need, and to have less room than you need. Next, I'm going to go for metal casting, because that will give us workshops, which will increase our production, and forges, which will also increase our production. Workshops you can build anywhere. They will give 2 flat production and then plus 10%, and then 1 engineer specialist slot, which gives production and then great engineer points. And forges, in the base game, you can only build these in cities that have a improved copy of iron within their borders. But I expanded it so that you can also build them in cities that have aluminum or copper improved. Because those are the 3 metal resources in this game. Well, there's uranium, but you don't really use that in a forge, use that in a reactor. So this will give +1 production to those resources. They'll also give +15% production towards building land units. I believe that's just land military units, but it could also be civilian units. I'm not
ين
entirely sure.
هونيتا سببت
Yeah, free money's nice.
السر هيك قاعد يجدادو
Here. Also, another new mechanic in Civilization 5 is embarking. No longer do you need a specific naval unit to carry land or military units around. Now, once you research the optics technology, you can simply your land units can simply embark on their own. This is kind of a side effect of having one unit per tile. Like you can't stack multiple land military units on the same tile in a ship anymore. So each one kind of, has to move over the ocean itself. It also saves you the production of having to build the transport ships in the first place. Here in Bliss, build a granary. You are kind of low on food. Now we will go for fine arts because it's the only choice we have, and also because we have more happiness, it'll give us more of a benefit.
ين هونيتا سببت
For now, he starts trying to convert me though. We'll have problems. Oh, Great Lighthouse has been built. Brazil founded their own religion. The Arianism, yeah, I believe that's the Berber, Northern African, flavor of Christianity. So you can see here, now that we finished a caravan, we can send it either to other cities, other civilizations, and get gold out of it, or we can send it to our own cities and give those cities extra food and production. I think I think for now I'll actually send at least one trade route to send a couple trade routes to other cities, both for the gold and also because if you have a trade route with if you send a trade route to another civilization, you get a small, I think it's 25% tourism bonus towards them. Now we're not making any tourism yet, but we will be soon, I hope. But you will not. Oh, here's our first great writer. Create a great work of writing.
There is no man, however wise, who has not at some point in his youth said things or lived a life, the memory of which is so unpleasant to him that he would gladly expunge it. And yet he ought not entirely regret it, because he cannot be certain that he has indeed become a wise man.
So every great work of writing is based on a real one that exists in the real world, and each great writer is based on a real famous writer from the real world. So like how in Civilization 4 all the great people were named after actual famous people from world history.
When peace...
Another reason I want to go for ironworking is because it leads to physics. And what physics has is Notre Dame, a wonder that will give us just 10 flat global happiness, which is excellent. That's the biggest single source of happiness in the game. And if we can get it, then that will be of great import to us. Great benefit. Now I think we could start sending trade routes in turn. Because I think we're making decent enough gold per turn. Kind of hurting for production, so I'll send some their way. Just have you explore automatically on your own. Theaters. Why don't you build the art? No, I think it's better to have them all in one city because you can stack a lot of bonuses in like one city. A lot of bonuses towards great people points. That is. Better to have all your guilds in like one city that has a lot of food. There are like certain bonuses you can only put in one city, so you don't want to spread those guilds too thin. You want to like stack all the great people points bonuses you can find in one city. Let's see. Happiness is getting a little low again. Just go explore on your own as well. Got a lot of production, my friend. Like a lot of overflow. Temple in here yet.
Deveremos prosperar através do comércio?
Oh, someone put the Colossus.
A tomb is established at Chichen Itza. The settlement of the Itza shall take place there. The Quetzal shall come. The green bird shall come. Arcantanel shall come. It is the word of God. The Itza shall come.
Ooh. Obviously state Riga. I believe that rolling R is part of the pronunciation Riga. Yeah. I wanted to build a national college here because I think Rome has the highest science output. Yeah. First, though, I think we should build a workshop because Rome's kind of hurting for production. Then we can build college. Artist Guild can wait a bit because it's hard to find slots for great works of writing, great works of art, excuse me, early on. You don't get like a really reliable way until museums, and that's in the industrial era. So that one, although I should probably be better to have that early on because you can start earning great artists and then just hold on to them, give you more time to get them. And the National Epic here is part of what I was talking about when you want to stack the guilds. This gives plus 25% great people generation, great people points, but you can only build this in one city. So, yeah.
Deveremos
Okay, he does still
prosperar.
want to be friends. I think probably want to send a production trade route to Rome because it doesn't actually have that much production itself. Shop. Decide who builds. I think Kumai should, because Kumai has a lot of production. Oh, there's another state, Budapest. Okay, so explain what these city-states do. Riga is a maritime city-state, so they give you food. Um, if you have 30 influence, they give you a little bit of food in your capital. Then if you have 60 influence, they give you a little bit of food in every city as well. Like more food. They give you like, I think it's like, I don't know the exact numbers, because like 3 food in your capital, then like 2 food in all of your cities, including your capital, so like 5 total in your capital and 2 everywhere else. Budapest is a militaristic city-state, so they will occasionally give you free military units. And if you are the ally of a military city-state, they will occasionally give you unique units of civilizations that are not in this game. So, like, I don't mean that, like, civilizations that don't exist. I mean that, like, civilizations that you are not currently facing. So, like, they will give us... Budapest here will give us the African forest elephant. The African forest elephant is Carthage's unique unit, so we know we're not currently playing against... Like, we know Carthage is nowhere on this map right now. That's what I mean. Like, they will give you the unique unit as long as you have the technology for it. That is, you can see if you are their ally and they have research horseback riding, they'll provide that unit as their gift. So they give you free military units every few turns, like every 10 turns or something. The higher your influence with them, the faster they get, like the more often they give you free units. And they will give you unique units for other civilizations that are not you're not playing against. Be a while before we get a golden age naturally, so why don't we get a nice free one. You can see our golden ages are now 12 turns long instead of 8. Which is very nice. We will send some production to Rome because they need it. Okay. I think we can now start settling those other cities I was talking about earlier. Maybe not in Neapolis because you're so close to growing. Why don't you start a workshop? You also are kind of low on produzione. Now we'll go to education to increase our science because we can build universities that will give the cities are built in plus 33% science flat. That's completed Mausoleum of Halicarnassus. Next city. Right. So the map script I chose, Continents Plus, I believe it's called. The way it works, well, the way Continents works is that it generates like 1 or 2, well, not 1 or 2, but like 2 or 3 big land masses like this, instead of just one huge landmass that we get on Pangea. The difference between Continents and Continents Plus is that Continents Plus adds these like long island chains with shallow water and tends to put the city-states on those islands. So like they're not on the mainland and like you don't lose out a good spot because a city-state, you know, got planted there instead. So that's why I like Continents Plus, just because gives you a little bit more room to work with on your mainland. You build Notre Dame for us. Notre Dame. Oh, Mombasa.
Yesterday is but a dream. Tomorrow is only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope.
Amen to that. Now, I think Antium can build... Yeah, it'll build those settlers in 2 turns, so why don't we build both of them? Go for the gusto. Build all 3. think I'm gonna buy a workboat here in Neapolis because I keep forgetting to tune up in the production queue. To have it like produce it manually. Oh, spotted the other continent. It seems. I think I'll start sitting on the road, building a road between Neapolis and Rome. So, another thing I don't think I've touched on is how borders expand in Civilization 5 compared to Civilizations 3 and 4. So, in 3 and 4, when your city's borders expand, they expand in, like, the rings. Like, obviously you watch... Oh, if you watch those videos, you saw what that looked like. Like, you start off with the one ring around your city, then you get the border expand, then it claims the next ring, then so on and so forth. Here in Civilization 5, though, borders expand one tile at a time, like one singular tile at a time. It's a bit slower, but that also comes with the benefit that you can buy individual tiles that you like want to expand to prematurely. So you can spend gold to expand to certain tiles specifically. Like if I really wanted this one tile, I could buy that tile, and now I have it. Now I don't have to wait for the culture to build up by itself. So that's kind of swings and roundabouts there. It's like slower passively, but you can also like buy up tiles yourself without having to wait for the borders to expand. This settler, put it. How we settle him down here near the fur. That way, it'll have plenty of like gear tiles to work. And let's. This should be Netherlands based on the color of the borders. Yep.
Ik ben Willem van Oranje, stadhouder over de Nederlanden. Behoeft gij iets? Mij staat nog veel te doen. Ik hoor... Heel goed.
Luxuries, that's always good. Get some embassy so you can... Also, when I was talking about embassies in the last episode, I didn't mention that in order to... I think I touched on it, but in order to be able to like enact certain treaties with civilizations, you need an embassy. Like, you need an embassy to trade... I believe it's...
Olá,
Research agreements.
continue.
Open borders, defensive pacts, things like that. Things beyond just like you know, resources and stuff like that. Actual like diplomatic pacts. To build a ship here, a naval unit. Build the temple. Lhasa seeks investors. So that is a quest that Lhasa has given us. So what they want us to do is give them money. Right, this scout keeps like floating around in Lhasa's water, so they're like really really angry with us right now. So I'm just gonna delete that unit next turn because he's by how much influence we've lost with them, I can tell this guy's not doing anything other than just swimming around Lhassa's waters without permission and making them mad. So yeah, these guys will give you quests. Quebec City and Mombasa both want us to give them gold. That just means that we'll get extra influence with them if we give them gold donations. Antwerp wants us to generate a great artist. So if we do that, if a great artist appears in our empire, we will get some free influence with them without having to buy it, basically. Oh, someone found us. Right.
Malala tuzaper.
Salt. That is way too much. No, thank you. Yeah, thank goodness he is on the other continent, because Attila the Hun, as you might expect, very much a warmonger. Likes picking fights. Sorry, we're not interested. Yeah. AI will also sometimes ask you to like join them in wars against other players in this game. Unlike in Civ 4, though, they usually don't do it. They don't like have to do it if they're like already at war. Like in Civ 4, they'll ask you to join a war they're already in, but in Civ 5, they'll ask you to like join a war they're planning. I think this guy, we obviously need him in range of the crab, otherwise we can't improve it. Um, we'll just put him here, even though that won't give him a lot of mantiles to work with. Um, all right. With that, I think I'm gonna call this episode here. Doesn't necessarily look like we did a lot, but we made some pretty good progress. We built some good wonders. We started cranking out the great works. We're already at 4 tourism. Ooh. Um, we met a bunch of city states, met some of our neighbors on the other side of the world, and have started making strides towards our chosen victory condition. In the next episode, we will just continue to do that. Um, hopefully, no one starts a fight with us, and we have to defend ourselves. Might make a little bit more exciting episode, but hopefully, we don't have to deal with that. If you liked the video, please feel free to give it a like and leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel. All of those tell both me and the YouTube algorithm gods that you like what I'm doing and you want to see more and you want other people to see it. Um, and if you do subscribe, be sure to click on that little bell button. That will give you notifications whenever I post a video on this channel, excuse me, to make sure you don't miss anything. Because sometimes if you're just subscribed, then YouTube doesn't necessarily do a very good job of telling you, oh, hey, this person you subscribe to has posted something new. Um, and as always, be good, stay safe, and I will see you all next time.